All right. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Ruffin. Today we are hosting a Halloween show. I'm filming this on Halloween. It's probably not going to come out till someday because I haven't been getting a lot of sleep, and so I want to do this for fun. I don't want to make myself film it and do all this in one night, and come on. So anyway, plus I figured people celebrate Dia de los Muertos. Dia de los Muertos. They celebrate that till the 2nd. I think Samhain is part of that too, maybe a little bit. So if I post it in the next couple of days, should be alright. But yeah, we're ranking the whole franchise. I know I've done this a couple times. I did Star Wars and X-Men, Planet of the Apes. And this time I realize this every time, but it's just hard to rank these side by side when you're talking about something from the early 80s or late 70s, and then you got something that came out in the 2020s. It's just going to be, hey, this was the one that I probably will watch, is, the number one movie on the list. I'm probably going to keep watching. And then the ones at the bottom of the list, forget about them. But yeah, we got our 5 categories now. I'm just going to go ahead and get started. The Surrealist McCoy. All right, we got the original Halloween 1978. See, nowadays you got to always include the year. But this one is a classic. People, say it's the first slasher movie. But, I think this kind of steals off of, it comes after Texas Chainsaw and Black Christmas. And I think it's more so that this is when the elements all came together and that everybody would start to copy the Final Girl. Like I said, those other ones have Final Girl. Anyway, whatever. It's an important, all the elements came together. But yeah, it's a great movie. It's one of my favorite movies. I think there's something about movies from the 1970s and early 80s that just are scarier to me. Something about it, I don't know. But just the clothes they wear and everything, just man, The Exorcist, The Omen, just these things have this really scary vibe. This movie has my favorite soundtrack, of any movie. Maybe Lord of the Rings, but it's apples and oranges. But I just, I learned a few of these tunes on the guitar and just love the music. Just full of dread and doom. But yeah, so many iconic parts, when Michael's across the street and when she's in the classroom and he's in the sheets. And then, he's behind the bush. That's become a whole joke now when he's behind the bush. Lots of iconic lines and stuff like that. Dr. Loomis, I will say Donald Pleasence is the MVP of all these, the first 6 of them. You get a lot of iconic lines. Death has come to your little town, sheriff. And then there's other weird ones, he's yelling at the little kid. He's like, hey, Lonnie, get your ass out of there, whatever. And I think Donald Pleasence, he really carries a lot of these movies. And they got the cop that's one of the friend's moms, and got the line, it's Halloween, everyone's entitled to a good scare. But yeah, just the daytime scenes of this was building up, and Laurie can tell something's wrong, and her friends are like, you're being crazy. And I really noticed that this time around. I've seen the movie a lot, but just, man, she was worried earlier that something was going to happen, and she's in the bed by herself, calm down, this is ridiculous. So I thought that was cool. They really built it up. And then by the time it's nighttime, that's going to be the slasher thing that everybody copies. Is he's just taking out people one by one. And I guess that's sort of the formula after this. But yeah, I don't want to, I think it's a little silly to act like it's the first thing or whatever. Because yeah, Black Christmas, Texas Chainsaw, those are popular movies that came out before this. that are kind of similar. But yeah, it's a classic. Best soundtrack ever. Yeah, Donald Pleasance crushes it. So this is a golden ticket, the highest award in my book. Gonna put it up here in the golden ticket, aka S tier. So yeah, I'm gonna keep going chronological and just go from there. This was a challenge. I watched all of these this month, and gotta tell you, it's like Keenan says on what's that thing with Tom Hanks? I'm drawing a blank. Why don't I know this? David Pumpkins, and he's like, there's 1,000 floors of frights. Like they're not all gonna be winners, you know. So it's like, yeah, some of these Halloween movies are like, you know, I don't want to say boring, but if I had to say boring, I would say that, you know, because I try not to say things are boring, but it's just, yeah, it's tough getting through some of these. But these first two are good. The second one, oh yeah, I love the poster on this one. But yeah, the first and second one, it works as a nice double feature. You could watch them back to back because it takes place in the same night. And you'll see that later with the newest trilogy that they came out with. They got a similar thing. You know, this does like the old movie 80s thing where they like play the end of the last movie at the beginning of this movie, which always just makes me laugh. Like, you know, it's like, all right, it's like, okay, we show. So if you are watching it as a double feature, you're kind of going like, well, I just saw this, you know. But yeah, Loomis continues to have lots of great lines in here, and you know, you don't know what death is, and I shot him 6 times. I shot him 6 times. This one, for some reason, it's like I think maybe I don't like it as much as maybe some other people, but I don't know, just because it's sort of like they just end up at the hospital, and it's just sort of. There's not a lot to it. And then I know there's been like criticism of like the fact that Laurie is his sister. And this time I really felt it, how forced that is, I think, because it's just this scene where they're like, oh, there was this secret file that no one knew about and it was sealed. And now all of a sudden a judge said that we could look at the file and she's actually his sister, and it's like, oh, that's why she came back to kill him. And it's like, huh? It just comes out of nowhere, and you know, I never even thought of it like that because I guess I skip over this one, but it does feel like what, especially with the newer trilogy, kind of throwing away that aspect of the storyline. But you know, I kind of grew up as part of the pop culture thing is that they're brother and sister, and so like this is where it started, and. You know, that wasn't always the case until they wrote that in here. You know what I mean? So it does feel like, what? Now that we've got that new trilogy, and it's like, oh, they didn't have to do that. Like, he could just be killing people for no reason. You know, the soundtrack's still good. Same tunes, but they got a updated synth sound. And I don't like it as much as the first one. Just, it's a little more popcorn kind of not as good, I think, but it's the same exact thing basically. It's just updated synth thing. I heard that this is actually the same mask that they used on the first movie, but it's just it had been sitting around, and so now it's like really dirty and messed up. Yeah, and it's just sort of like Laurie's in the hospital the whole time. She's selling, and so selling, it's like a pro wrestling thing. Is basically you're acting like you're hurt, basically. And that's her the whole movie. She's just selling the injuries from the last movie, and so yeah, to me it just doesn't go a lot of places. You know, it's just kind of like in that hospital all the time. You know, Michael's kind of more Terminator in this one. Like he does this scalding water thing, and it's like his hands should be hurting, but yeah, he's like bust through doors like it's nothing. And this is another one that made me think like, dang, Loomis and Laurie. They really don't have a lot of screen time together. They're like these big characters in this franchise, but they're together at the end of the first one, and then they're together at the end of this one. That's it. But they kind of anchored the whole franchise. You know what I mean? Like they're like the two constants, the through line from like for these first two. But I never thought about that. I was like, man, they're really not on screen together a lot, you know. Yeah, I like how they use like Mr. Sandman song, you know, to kind of bookend this at the beginning and end. On this watch through though, I did watch some kind of out of order, so I didn't watch this after the first one, and so I think just on its own, I kind of noticed like, yeah, it's not that good, you know. It's just also Loomis makes me mad in this. He mispronounces Samhain, which I don't blame anybody for that, but you know, Sam Hain, and he says something like, "It means the Lord of the Dead," and like, I'm going like, does it mean that? I thought it was just Samhain is the precursor to Halloween, and it's sort of similar to Dia de los Muertos with the spirit world and the is becoming close to the real world, and they would make like turnips into jack-o'-lanterns in Ireland and in Northern Ireland, and but yeah, I'm like, I gotta look this up. Does it really mean that? Because I thought it was just the name of the holiday. But that part always kind of like, man, come on, Loomis, you're supposed to know better than that. But yeah, this fun in the first movie, you know, Laurie's like, oh, I have a crush on Ben Tramer, and then in this movie, Ben Tramer meets his fiery demise, and it's just like a really funny part. Like it's the police just hit him and make him get all blowed up, and it's like, why? And it's just one of those things that like you could rewind over and over because it's just so silly. But yeah, there goes her crush, man, and she's flirting with this guy that works at the hospital too, man. But in my opinion, it's a middle of the road type of thing, so I'm gonna give it a matinee. And I'm gonna stick it right here in the middle. Make those pictures a little bigger. All right, this next one is I guess was a controversial one. Now it's kind of come around and become like a hipster cool thing, you know, like, oh, we kind of realize this is good now. But I will say I like this one. I have some nostalgia for it. You know, I was in high school and my buddy Justin had it on VHS, and shout out to Justin. And so I think we watched this a few times, and we knew back then that it was like this thing of like, it's Halloween 3, but there's no Michael Myers, and why is that? And it's the explanation that they wanted to be an anthology, and you know that works if you do it on the second one. I think you can't do 1, 2, and then third one is the anthology, or where you switch to a different story. It's like people already are used to Michael Myers, so that hurt this movie when it came out and everything. I love this soundtrack as well. John Carpenter, he's tickling the ivory keys on the synthesizers. Really good. I mean, I put this one on, like the soundtrack. I'll just put it on just to listen to it. It's got that moody, doomy, dready vibe. It is funny watching this. Like, I did watch this after Halloween 2, and it's funny because the chick that her dad is the sheriff, she dies in that. And then she's in this one in the beginning. She's a completely different character. So, and look, she's like playing an older lady. That's what I mean. This movie is a completely different universe because they're playing Halloween 1978 like on TVs in this movie like multiple times. Like he's at a bar and he's watching Halloween and stuff like that. So this is just has zero to do with the previous storyline. There's this recurring commercial in this movie, like 8 more days till Halloween, 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 and it's annoying, but I like it. It's a good annoying, you know, because I don't, you know, it's got a beat to it, man. When that thing comes on, it's like, I think that's what I mean. Like me and my buddy Justin, we used to like rewind it because that's just so funny to us back then, you know, when you're like 14, like that's the most hilarious thing. But they play that through the whole movie, and you know it's like this scheme that this guy has to kill a bunch of kids on Halloween because I don't know, but you know they keep watching these commercials all month, and then finally they put their mask on and watch this commercial, and then like snakes and bugs come out of their face, and that's his master plan, and this guy, Connell Cochran, yeah, he's a real douche. But he does pronounce Samhain correctly, so I will give him that. But they have a big piece of Stonehenge that they brought over to the Americas, and for some reason that it can like zap you and make snakes and bugs come out of your face. And yeah, I don't really know. I don't think they really explain it well either. So it's funny. It's like, okay, this is like this evil plot, but why do the kids deserve that? But the main guy, Tom Atkins, I don't know his character's name, but he's just so funny in this. Like, they make him into this ladies' man. He's like flirting with all his coworkers, and he's like slapping her on the butt, and he's like, Agnes, I should have married you. And it's like, what the? And then he's like talking to the other coworker, and she's kissing him on the cheek, and all this stuff. And it's like, what the? Like, this guy is not. He's like an older guy. I think he's like 47 in this. And that brings me to my next thing, which is, the other main character is this woman, and she's only 23. I looked this up. And it's just like this kind of, I don't want to say unbelievable age gap between them, but it's just like, really, dude? Like, I don't know. Sometimes you just get that vibe. Like, I remember watching Yes Man with Jim Carrey and Zoe Deschanel, and I always felt like that was kind of, he just seems a little too old. Like, it didn't have the chemistry, I guess. And then in this one, it just happens real quick. Like, they just start hooking up. Like, it's like, what? Because her dad gets killed by one of these agent guys. They kind of remind me of the agents from the Matrix, but they are robots. But they're kind of like these Terminator kind of guys, and her dad gets killed by that, and so they're investigating this together, like this mystery about the masks and all this stuff. Yeah, it's just like they get this hotel room, and then it's like quick. It's like he's like, well, I'll just get another room, or I'll sleep in the car, that's better than sleeping on the floor. And she turns around, and she goes like, oh, like, where do you want to sleep? And then they just start hooking up right after that. It's like, what? Like, they just make him out to be like this Casanova guy, he can get any girl. But I don't know, that's kind of, to me, part of the charm of this is just, it's so wacky. And, some of these side characters are really funny. Like, there's this family they run into. But this movie has got some nasty practical effects, with the whole snake bug stuff. But it goes really hard, like on some of these things when these robots take some of these people out. I mean, it's not like it goes hard, you know what I mean? This is a horror movie, but it just, the whole premise of it is crazy and goofy, and like the rock from Stonehenge thing, and there's laser beams, and they put them on the masks, but it's awesome, I think it's awesome. But then, at the end, it's like the chick is a robot, and then I'm like, well, why is she a robot the whole time? Or did they make her into a robot? You're kind of left with questions at the end, which I kind of like. And at the end, he's calling like the TV station, like, turn the commercial off. He's trying to get them to turn the commercial off because it's getting ready to kill all the kids and everything. It's just like, so at the end, you're like, oh, I don't know if he did save anybody. Yeah, it's a really wacky storyline. It's got nothing to do with Michael Myers. But I really like it. It's got the nostalgia for me, and the soundtrack. So I think for me, that's enough to give it a full price. Boom. So now we got Halloween 4. Gotta say, I love this one. Oh, fuck. Okay. The Halloween 4 and Halloween 5 poster looks very similar, so I messed up. Anyway, I gotta say, I really love this one. And like we're saying, but they thought they were gonna change it into an anthology thing, and then they realized, or the audience did not like, well, they're like, where's Michael Myers? So really, this is Halloween 3, if you think about it, because Halloween 3 ain't got nothing to do with anything. I like this one a lot. I think even just the intro of this movie alone is enough to give it a ton of points. Sometimes I pull this up on YouTube just all year long, just to watch it. I mean, I just love the intro. It's this moody kind of droney, autumn scenes and pumpkins and the orange font and all that stuff, and it's just awesome. But yeah, the little girl in this, kind of like the main character or one of the main characters, Jamie Lloyd. She's Jamie Lee Curtis, Laurie Strode's daughter, apparently. And Laurie Strode has died off screen or something, and whatever. They, obviously, I guess she just didn't want to come back. And yeah, I love this one. I mean, it's just they get the mob going. Like this is when I start making comparisons to Frankenstein a little bit. Like got the whole town is in a revolt. Like, we gotta kill this monster. Loomis is, how they live after Halloween 2. They got blowed up, but yeah, just go with it, right? Everybody comes. No one's ever really gone. Loomis, one of my favorite things in this is Loomis gets a ride with this old crazy guy, which is like one of my favorite kind of characters. I think this guy is up there with the guy from Friday the 13th. It's a death curse. This guy's just as cool as that guy to me. I mean, I wrote down, he said, he's like, oh, you're chasing it, aren't you? Apocalypse, end of the world, Armageddon. It's always got a face and a name. I've been hunting the bastard for 30 years, give or take. Come close a time or two. Too damn close. You can't kill damnation, mister. It don't die like a man does. So I just said it my own way because I don't really remember how he says it. But it's just an awesome scene where he's driving, and then the guy's driving, he's like drinking whiskey, and he tries to give it to Loomis, and he's like, and then he just has some too. Loomis is crazy too. That's the thing, is like Loomis is kind of the through line of a lot of these, and he's like a good guy, but he's kind of crazy, and like he's kind of like feels like it's his fault some of the times. You know what I mean? But he's drinking the liquor too, and anyway. That's just one of my favorite parts is when he gets the ride from this guy. Oh yeah, you're hunting it, ain't you? Yeah, you're hunting it all right, just like me. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of the whole Frankenstein thing with the mob, and then they pick that back up later on in the Halloween Kills. People talk about the mask in this being like something that I guess take points off. But for me, yeah, I mean, I used to think that too. I used to be like, man, the mask is so ugly and he's not scary. But I don't know. I've watched this a lot now, and I started to like the mask. I think it is kind of scary. I don't know, something about it. But yeah, it looks dumb. It doesn't look as cool as, the original and everything. So yeah, the intro of this, the crazy old guy, all this stuff. But I think the main thing about this is the ending. It's just one of the best endings in a movie. I mean, not even just horror, but like just imagery wise, when the little girl kills somebody and she's got her outfit on, and calls back to the first movie when Michael had his little clown outfit on, and it's like a cliffhanger, like, oh, what? The little girl did it? What's going on? And so I think that just based off the ending, I mean, that gives us a lot of points too. That being said, I am gonna give it a full price, but I'm gonna put it in front of Halloween 3, just because that one's a little goofy. So this one's I think a little bit better than that one. Okay, Halloween 5. I gotta say, these next two I don't like, and this is kind of what I was saying earlier. Like, it's like, man, it's like kind of boring. They kind of drag. It's like there's nothing redeeming. There's no fun to be had watching these, the 5 and 6. This one is just like the vibe of Michael. Like this one, the mask is bad. Like, I think it does take away from the movie. Like, it just looks weird and it's not scary, and the dude playing Michael's not scary. The way he moves and the way he acts and everything, the way he holds the knife, it's like it just doesn't work. And I think if you got that, if that's bad, then the whole thing's gonna be bad because it's about Michael Myers. You know what I mean? So, but this is the thing. The main thing this did that sucks is it didn't follow up on the end. She's in like this outfit right here. They don't follow up on her being the killer. At the end of the last one, which, like, I'm not saying I know what they should have done or how they should have done it, but what they did here, like, sucks. And she's mute now, which I guess, okay, that's something, but it kind of sucks because she's mute. She can't talk. You know what I mean? So it's like, They could have done something with this, and then the last girl, and the final girl from the last movie, and they kill her off at the beginning of this, and then that's kind of a waste because I thought she was actually like a good actress, and then we're like left with her friend, who's like annoying, like, and I just always remember this part where she's like da, 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 da. And it's just like, oh my god, and then she's like the new final girl in place of the. I was like, why did they get rid of the? Anyway, and they kind of like Loomis' character kind of sucks in this. He's not as likable. He's just like endangering Jamie, the little girl, and he's being like way too crazy towards this little girl, man. I actually think, I heard that, or I read that Donald Pleasance, he didn't like that his character was being stupid like that, and that they didn't follow up on, the ending of Halloween 4. But yeah, this one does, another Frankenstein thing that it reminds me of is, he's living with this homeless guy. And I think there's kind of a similar Frankenstein thing where Frankenstein's monster staying with this blind guy. Something like that, kind of like, oh, I'm living with this random old guy underground. And then I remember like Halloween Ends even does this type of thing too. Or Michael's living with the crazy old guy, homeless guy. And I remember seeing it, and then this is the first time this year that I've seen Halloween 6. So I didn't even realize that this was like a character there. They were hinting at this like dark man looking character. But yeah, we'll get to that. But it's just like they start showing this guy that's like on the edges, and he's observing. I don't know. It's just like, this is just not fun to watch. You know what I mean? It's just like, ugh. So, I don't know. With all that being said, I'm going to give this a watch at your own risk. It's going to be just not something that I really want to watch. I wanted to watch all of them so that I know what I'm talking about a little bit. But I just don't see myself ever watching this again. So, going to go last place down here. Watch at your own risk. Whew. Man, I'm going to take this Frankenstein. Oh, by the way, whenever this whole debate about, no, it's Frankenstein's monster, in my mind, if Dr. Frankenstein is his dad, then wouldn't his last name be Frankenstein? So that's his name, Frankenstein. Anyway, so I'm going to call Frankenstein's monster, I'm just going to call him Frankenstein because that's his name. It's his last name. So anyways, yeah, so this one is the first time I've seen this. I have tried to watch it before, like in past years. Haven't been able to finish it. This time I really made myself do it. Jamie, the little girl, is like grown up and she has a baby, and the baby somehow ends up with Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is in this, and he's really bad. His character, or his performance, is just like, yes, Michael Myers will return, and blah de blah. And it's just the way that he is in this is like, are you supposed to like him? I really don't like his character. I don't really pull for him, but he's like aligned with our good guys in this. Like, he's aligned with the final girl, and I'm like, why? He's so unlikable. He's like a peeping Tom. He's looking at her like taking her clothes off and stuff. I'm like, bro. And then the whole movie I'm watching it, and then honestly, it's because I wasn't really paying attention too. But if it's a good movie, I'll be paying attention. That's all I'm saying. But I didn't realize this was like a Strode family or something. It was like hard to pay attention, and the main girl's got a kid, and the little kid is drawing the thorn symbol. And, what's the thorn symbol? It's like a rune. And they're kind of bringing in back the Celtic kind of themes again. And it comes out of nowhere that there's this cult group, the Cult of Thorn, and this symbol. Michael returns to Haddonfield, and there's that big symbol, and Loomis is like, oh yeah, like his mark, he's come home. And it's like, since when? This is the 6th movie, or 5th, I guess. When has this symbol ever came up? Like, this whole runic Celtic thing, like, really? So it just feels really random. And if you ever seen like Jason Goes to Hell, it's kind of like that, where it's like all this lore just randomly appear comes in this movie, and yeah, like the little kid that draws the symbol, he sees the little dark man guy, like the mysterious guy around, and I think he calls him like the voice man. And I don't really get what they're trying to say with all this, really. I mean, it's the way that Halloween 3 is, where it's like I can't really explain it. It's just crazy. That's true of this as well, but it sucks. So, but yeah, I feel bad about Donald Pleasance in this. Like, I think this is his last movie. You could he's visibly like slower when he's walking and doing those kinds of parts. His voice, you can hear his like at the kind of age to his voice, and it's almost like a meta kind of thing where they're like asking him to come back, and they want him to come back to work, or they want for some reason. But his boss is like the leader of this cult thing, right? I'm like, what? But it's a meta type thing because I don't think Donald Pleasance in real life really wanted to play this character over and over like this. But I think, or at least I've read something where like he did it for the money. You know what I mean? It's not like he's passionate about being Loomis. And it's just like they're asking him to come, and he's just like, oh no, I'm retired. And it's like, yeah, it's like, man, that's what it was like in real life. You know, they probably said, hey, we'll pay you a lot of money. And he said, all right. But yeah, they kill off the grown up Jamie, like at the beginning. And then we're left with this Strode family that I didn't realize they were Strode until like 3/4 of the movie. I'm like, wait, they said Strode. You know, I just wasn't paying attention and I couldn't explain to you what the relation, you know, is like Laurie Strode. Laurie Strode was adopted, I think. Whatever. Anyway, it doesn't matter. They are living in the Michael Myers house. That's all you got to know. Oh yeah, relatives of the people who adopted Laurie. They're living in the okay, whatever. I don't know. But this movie kind of makes me think about my mom. Both my parents are actors. They did like plays and stuff back in the day. But I always remember like something she kind of says about movies or like it'll be like a critique of a movie. Like if she doesn't like it, this could be a reason. It'd be like, well, she just doesn't have anybody she could pull for. And I feel like that sometimes too, where it's like, if you watch something and you don't like anybody and you're not getting behind anybody, it's like, why am I even watching this? So that's a lot of points taken off for this, because the final girl and her little son, I'm like, you know, Donald Pleasance as Loomis, he's kind of phoning it in. He's tired. He's old. You know, Paul Rudd, man, he just is really bad. And then, you know, the portrayal of Michael Myers, even if you're one of those people that, okay, let's watch it and just root for him. You know, he looks kind of weird. It's like he doesn't look that cool. He doesn't look that scary. So, you know, there's some cool stuff to it. I mean, they kind of reinterpret one of the music things. They make it, well, it's just the rhythm that they do in all these movies, like the dun, 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 dun. You know, I think this came out in like mid-90s, so it kind of has like a more different kind of production to it. It sounds kind of cool. I mean, it doesn't get a ton of points for that, but it's something, you know. And there's some, you know, nice yellow leaves and the imagery, like some of these daytime scenes, you know, really nice to look at and everything like that. And the autumn vibes. But yeah, I know I've heard things about this where like the editing and this movie got all messed up, and you could kind of feel it when you watch this. Is all of a sudden this lady jumps out the window and lands like and she's not, like she's acting like she's dead, and then like second later they're in a completely different location and everybody's fine, and it's like, when did we get there and why is it? And it's like you can feel it that something has gone wrong with the editing or something, and yeah, and the ending kind of comes out of nowhere. And I know there's like two different versions of this. I watched the regular version. There's a producer's cut, but I'm not really interested in watching it. You know, it's just, I think this might be like the worst one to me. This is like from a pure like enjoyability factor. Yeah, I think this is like the worst one to me. So I'm going to watch at your own risk, but I'm going to say it's worse than Halloween 5. Like if I had to pick between those, yeah, probably rather watch Halloween 5. Because then at least Loomis is like crazy and entertaining, I guess. I don't know. But in this one, it's like, yeah. All right, so that's the end of the Thorn trilogy. So all these are like one timeline so far, right? Except for this one, the Halloween 3. And now we're going to get into a different kind of timeline, which is a sequel to Halloween 2. So this is like, has the whole, their brother and sister is built into this one because it's a sequel to Halloween 2. But yeah, Laurie Strode has, faked her death, and she's out in California somewhere. She's changed her whole deal, and nobody knows she's really Laurie Strode, and that her brother's a serial killer. But yeah, you could kind of feel like the Scream influence here, like or just like if you watch Halloween 6, that came out, I think in like 95. It was like a year before Scream. This came out a couple years after Scream. Yeah, just a lot of movies kind of felt like this at this point. That had that Scream vibe, because it kind of, it's a different kind of slasher. And I think it was just the time period, like late 90s, early 2000s. That's not a bad thing, but this one has the nostalgia points for me because I think this might have been the first one I saw, like when I was a kid, probably. I don't know how old I would have been, but I think I remember seeing it at my aunt's house with my sister. Jamie Lee Curtis, her mom is in this. Janet Leigh, yeah. And that's the thing is that's one of the things that he wanted her for the first. He wanted Jamie Lee Curtis for the first one because of who her mom was. Her mom was in Psycho, which, okay, if people are saying Halloween is like one of the first slashers, then Psycho would be like a proto slasher or whatever. And so that's cool. Like her mom plays a little role in this. It's kind of like, oh crap, it's a cool like cameo. But yeah, LL Cool J, he's really funny in this. It's just like one of those parts that I like to rewind a lot is where he's I guess he's like a romance writer, spicy romance guy, and he's like reading his wife. He's reading to his wife. He's a security guard, but he's just reading this thing, and he's just talking about like too tumultuous. I can't even say it. He talks about round melon breasts. I like to like rewind it a lot because it's just so stupid. And she's just like, round, like, what are you talking about? Like food? And he's just like, honey, it's a novel. Like people like descriptive adjectives or whatever. Like, it's just, I love little things like that. They're just like a silly, like, who wrote this? Who put this in here? But get a couple points taken off for this just with the mask. Yeah, it's not scary. Like, and I think I've heard people say, you could see his eyes like too much, and I get that. You kind of want the Michael Myers mask to like have that black, but it doesn't take off too many points for me. But I like this whole late 90s kind of vibe to this one, so it's gonna be a little higher on my list, just for the nostalgia. But not not like great movie. It's still I'm gonna give it a matinee, but I'm gonna put it in front of Halloween 2 because I had a little more fun with this. Boom. All right, I'm gonna continue the trend of having a famous rapper in your Halloween movie with Busta Rhymes. And this is something I just noticed too. This came out in July. Why is Halloween coming out in July? But anyway, this has got to be like one of the dumbest, explanations here with, we think Laurie kills Michael at the end of the last movie, but actually that's a different guy that Michael killed. He broke his voice box and then he put the mask on him, and so that's why he wasn't able to call out and be like, it's not me. I'm not Michael Myers. Because that. And it's like, oh my God, you just can tell they just wrote that into it after. And it's something where like, I think there was a contractual thing where like, she was like, I'm not coming back unless one of these characters die, or like if either my character or Michael Myers dies or something like that. So, speaking of that, Laurie gets killed off at the beginning of this. And, it's the multiverse and everything. So this is just one timeline. But I think for what it is, and it's pretty cool. That's like probably one of the better parts of this. I don't want to say it's like iconic or anything like that. But it's like, okay. The first time you see it, you're like, dang. Or at least I remember back then, it was like kind of a big deal. They were like, oh, crap, dude. They like actually kill her off like, on screen because, Halloween 4, I guess they had killed her off screen. And they just tell you about it. But she's crazy, man. She's in here like at this mental institution, and she's like hiding her. She's not taking her pills. She's putting them away, and she has this trap set up for Michael. But this one does have its drawbacks, and it's got some like kind of 2000s kind of weirdness to it. I just think it's funny, like the final girl, whatever her name is. It's like, she's the final girl because like there's a part at the beginning where she screams and then a glass breaks. So that like, oh, she's got some darkness in her, like, oh, she's probably like the main character. It's just funny how like when you watch like a bunch of these, you start to like see things like that. You're like, oh, that girl's kind of dark. Like she's probably the main character, she's going to be the survivor. She's a dark past or something like that. But yeah, they have this like reality show, internet show thing where they go to Michael Myers' house, but they're gonna like scare them on purpose. And Busta Rhymes is gonna dress up as Michael, but they don't know Michael's really there, and he's been living underneath the house in the sewer, and he's been eating rats. And they don't know that he's still there, but it's just a funny thing, like where you watch something that's like dated because of the technology. It's like, man, they really thought like texting was like, like, did they think this was like futuristic? Or because it's like she's online friends with this guy Deckard, or like that's his online name is Deckard. See, it just sounds so stupid to even explain it yet. But they're watching the internet show. He's texting her. I always love old movies. The texts always come in like one letter at a time. Like nowadays, obviously we know you just get a text, but in old movies, like in chat rooms and these scenes, it's always like one letter at a time, going like that. But yeah, this Deckard dude, he's at a party, and then he's like, he wants to watch the internet show instead, and then there starts to be a crowd, and then they're all watching what's going on, and yeah, this is just kind of goofy, but it is so bad it's good, but it's not that good, I should say. I mean, if that makes sense. Yeah, there's just parts where like Busta Rhymes like cusses out Michael, and then because he thinks he's a different guy, and it's like that would never happen, in one of these other ones, because Michael just walks away. It's like, what? You're just gonna cuss him out, and then he's like, okay, like okay. But yeah, Busta Rhymes' acting is pretty bad, but it's like pretty funny, He's like, oh my god, everybody's dead. Like just stuff like that, where it's like, wow, dude, laying it out thick, But yeah, some cheesy stuff. This girl, she makes her little dumb comeback with a chainsaw. And she's like, this is for me. This is for me. Me. I don't know. Busta Rhymes, he's like, trick or treat, motherfucker. So yeah, when you're watching it, it's fun, but it's not good. And it's just crazy that this is the end of this whole timeline. If you follow it all the way through or whatever, like, before they would reboot it with Rob Zombie. So it just kind of ends on a fart, a fart note. But I love this part at the end where they're like talking to Busta Rhymes, and he's like, Michael Myers is a killer shark in baggy ass overalls. And I forget what the rest of it, but just stuff like that where it's like, did Busta Rhymes go, hey, let me help you with the script. Can I say this? And they just said, yeah, just say that. Yeah, not a lot of great stuff about this, but it's got the so bad it's good vibe. So it does have entertainment value. So I'm gonna give it a rental. So not good enough to be middle of the road, but I'm not gonna say watch at your own risk, because it's alright. All right, we got the Rob Zombie Halloween. Boom. I gotta say, I've seen this a few times, and this time I liked it a little more. than the other times I saw it. I still don't like the things that I don't like about it. Like I really don't like the dialogue in this. Like some of the times there's just needlessly gross and just like trashy. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, we get it, Rob Zombie. You know, it's like if you watch his movies, you know what I'm talking about. It's like, really, bro? Like, because to me, yeah, put your own spin on it, but you're just making it into a Rob Zombie thing, if that makes sense. So I just with those kinds of like that dialogue, so I don't know. I just don't like that, you know, like some of that type of stuff. But the stuff I like about this, and I know like it's like, oh well, why does Michael kill? And this one, they show him. It's like, oh, he's kind of like Dahmer, like he kills little animals and stuff and everything like that. And you know, it's kind of cheesy, like the way the little kid Michael is going around, and it's like, dude, he's little, like he wouldn't be able to overpower this bully and do this and that. But it's like, you know, you just go with it. But the more of the part that I appreciate more this time around is when he ends up getting, you know, locked up and he's in the place, and just him thinking that he might get out, and it's like, you ain't getting out, buddy. Like, you know, Loomis is like, no, you've done terrible things, and that's the thing. The Loomis guy, it's not great to me because it's like, okay, either I feel like he should really crush it and try and do kind of an impression, or like just do something completely different. Because, well, I don't know. It's just, it feels like he's just not as charismatic as Donald Pleasance. I mean, the guy does a good job. It's just when you do a like an iconic thing like this, it's just always gonna feel like, well, that's not Loomis. You know, it just doesn't feel like quite as good as you know, the Donald Pleasance version. But yeah, some actually pretty like scary parts. You know, when he takes out the stepdad and the stepdad's like looking up at him, and like there's some intense stuff in here. I'm not gonna act like it's all bad. And he's wearing the, like, you know, the scary mask, and he's a little kid, and it just kind of looks funny because it looks like his head is really big. I love Danny Trejo in this, and he's like, Michael is like, you gotta learn to live inside your head, Michael, because then there's no walls, and no walls can stop you. And you know, over the years, Michael is becoming more and more like he's just not talking, and then he makes masks, you know, to hide his face. Like, I actually like that stuff. I that's what I mean. I like the whole him as a kid being locked up, and I was thinking, like, you know, I wish it was just that. I wish the movie was just him and Loomis and Danny Trejo, and it was just, that was the whole movie or something. Yeah, I like when Michael, like, he breaks out of here, and it's just so sad because Danny Trejo's like, oh, I was good to you, Michael, you know. Or I was good to you, Mikey. We got Danielle Harris in here, who's the little girl Jamie from the older ones, and her dad's Brad Dourif. Yeah, so this is cool casting in here. I'm not gonna lie. But you know, they recreate these things, like, because after a certain point, it just becomes kind of like, then it goes into the remake territory where it just feels like, okay, now they're just doing the old movie. You know, they do like the girl in the first movie going like totally, and they kind of make fun of that, and they recreate these things, and then they recreate these scary things, but like when you do like 1970s things, which I kind of think is scarier, and then you do it in like a 2000s way, it just makes it less scary, you know. And it's like, why recreate it, you know? But the way that Michael is in this is more like he's big, you know. He's like the Undertaker. But yeah, just an example of like some of the dialogue that I don't like is just, you know, we know our boy Ben Tramer that Lori's got a crush on, and so he's in this universe as well. Somebody says Ben Tramer is retarded, but he's not short bus retarded. You know, that's the type of thing we're working with here. It's like, really, like, why do we have to put these kinds of things in here? I don't know. I'm not offended. It's just like, it's stupid. And I do like the Brad Dourif character. Like, Danielle Harris is the girl that he's the sheriff, like he's her dad. I do like the parts with him and Loomis and just getting pissed off, because that's a funny aspect of the first couple of movies too. Like, just that these cops have to deal with this crazy doctor guy, you know what I mean? And so, like, I like those parts too in this. Well, they just do all the same crap. They have big showdown at the end, and they do this. They do the same line as the original, like, "Oh, was that the boogeyman?" And I do believe it was. And, they redo all that. I just don't get like why they did this. It's kind of like when I did my Planet of the Apes thing. It's like, why did they get Tim Burton to do Planet of the Apes? This is what I think about this. Where it's like, why couldn't they get somebody to help with it? Like, instead of just Rob Zombie, let's just let Rob Zombie direct it and write it and everything. It's like, why did they do that? But there probably was like 10 guys that they could have handed it to that would have like crushed it at this time period, like 2007, 2009, and it would have been way better. I'm not saying this is like bad, but I just looking back, you're like, really? I guess it was just business, and it was, because this was like the number one, whatever weekend it came out was like, it held the record of that for box office for like a long time. And so it made, okay, on that aspect, that makes sense. They're like, let's get Rob Zombie to do it. It's gonna sell a lot of tickets. Yeah, okay. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a rental. But I think I enjoy this not as much as Resurrection, just because you gotta give it up for Busta Rhymes. Come on. And there's just too much weirdness for me to, yeah. But yeah, not terrible, but yeah, it's just a rental. All right, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie Halloween 2. This came out 2009, I believe. This is the other one this year that I finally saw. The only two movies I hadn't seen was Halloween 6 and this one. And this one's got all the same kind of things that I don't like about the first one. They just stuff that like they're joking about necrophilia, and I think they talk about like a golden shower, and it's just like, bro, like, we get it, Rob Zombie, like, we get it. So those things, I don't like, again. But it does go back to the aspect of the last one that I like, which is showing Kid Michael in the place, and this one really goes hard on this imagery of the white horse, and his mom is wearing white, and like, okay, they show it to you at the beginning, and you're like, okay, that's cool, whatever, and then they show it to you like 15 times, and then eventually towards the end of the movie, like, they're just appearing, like his mom is appearing everywhere, and then Laurie, because they're brother and sister. Oh yeah, in this universe they're brother and sister as well, so it's part of the lore, man. And but anyway, no, but and then Laurie starts to see the mom too, and it just feels like, I know people talk about this, but it's like, Rob Zombie, does your wife need to be all up in this movie? Like, she's all throughout the movie, and it's like, Michael Myers' mom, okay, but it's just the whole white thing, and with the dream sequences, and they just kind of keep hitting you over the head with it. Although, I mean, that is a reason, like, I do like this better than the first one, because of it just being a little more different, but just for that one reason, because it's really, they're both pretty, comparable. It's a little different portrayal of Michael. It seems like half the time he's wearing the mask, the other half the time he's just like a mountain man wearing like a hoodie, and he doesn't have the mask on. They show his face like a lot, and that's different, and he like vocalizes when he punches, and he yells and stuff like that. So it's different, they do some different stuff, and I appreciate that. But it doesn't mean it's good necessarily. But yeah, I really start to not like Loomis in this. It's like I guess what I was saying, it's like he's really deviating now, where he's kind of an asshole. Like, I get like, there was like a cool charm to Loomis and the other ones. There's like, he's crazy, but you still like him. You still pull for him. He's still like a good guy. This Loomis, I really don't like. He's just like celebrity author, and he's like hitting on ladies, and it's like they're having the showdown at the end, and he shows up, and I'm just like, why is he here? I don't care. It's like, I'm just sick of this guy. And he writes this book, and this part just makes me laugh, because Laurie is reading the book, and she finds out that Michael Myers is her brother from the book, and she's just reading it in her car, and she freaks out because it's like they didn't have the internet back then or something. No, it's just funny to me. Like, there's just certain stuff, and yeah, some, it's not really. The end is kind of goofy. Michael's like mask gets like ripped off, and he just looks kind of goofy. And after their whole showdown, Laurie starts to see the mom. And then after all this stuff, and she comes out, and Laurie's wearing the mask, and she looks like goofy idiot person, and then at the end, she's in an asylum, and there's some part where the mom's like, "Oh, repeat after me. I love you, mommy." Yeah, that's what I mean. I like that it's different, and I like that they put these dream things in there, but they just do it a little too much, and it's just like goofy, and but it just gets slightly more points than the other one. But I mean, they're really kind of the same, So, that being said, I will give it a rental as well, but I'm gonna put it above the 2007. Yeah, it just had a little more like spicy something, just to keep it freshen it up. All right, so now we're gonna go to a different timeline now. Going to the David Gordon Green trilogy. And this one is called Halloween. It's the third movie called Halloween. And like I said, nowadays you got to include the year. Halloween 1978, 2007, and this is Halloween 2018. I was really hyped for this when it was gonna come out, and I really, really, really liked it when it first came out. I've seen this several times now, and I will say, still solid movie, but it's sort of like lost the little bit of that luster of when I first saw it, and it was exciting when it was like a reboot, and it's going to be a trilogy. And but I want to say about this whole trilogy though, this guy James Jude Courtney, he plays Michael Myers, and I think he's probably like the definitive performance of Michael Myers. He's big, he's imposing, he's scary. He just does it the way he's supposed to do it. I don't know. I mean, I know it's not like complicated, but I don't think just any old person could do this. Could play a character like Jason or Michael. You got to be like a good actor. I'm a fan of wrestling, so I have a lot of respect for this. What this guy does with this character. He doesn't have lines, but he's still an actor. But yeah, now these trilogy of movies, I think it does capture the kind of like the Anytown USA vibe, and that's what the originals do too. Like Haddonfield is kind of like this town that could be anywhere, but I really kind of feel that way about these ones too. You got these like pretentious podcast people that kind of like by the time they get taken out, it's like they got it coming, man. They're so annoying, and there's some just side characters that are kind of dumb. I like these movies though, how they'll give you a little bit about the character before they get sometimes you watch these old slashers like Friday the 13th and Halloween, and it's just like these dumb side characters, but these, it's almost like that kind of Tarantino kind of dialogue where you're like, why are they talking about that? But it's just something to give you like a weird, unique like window into their life. You're not going to be able to really tell you who this character is really, but you can give them something weird, like this kid is going fishing with his dad, and he's like, he wants to dance, and then he's like, I was like, oh, I thought you liked fishing. And he's like, yeah, I like fishing, Dad, but like I want to dance. And it's like, and then these characters act really stupid and die just like any other slasher, but before that, they gave you this weird little thing, right? And so I think this trilogy does that type of thing really well, just in my opinion. But the Tarantino thing, I think more is like these cops are talking about a sandwich, like the peanut butter jelly banh mi sandwich, and it's just that type of thing, But there's other dialogue in here that's sort of like unrealistic, and where like the dad is like, oh, I put peanut butter on my penis. It's like, just kind of cringy, and you're like, eh. But yeah, I think this is solid and everything. It's just not quite as good as I remember it being. I've seen it like several times, but this is another one where like you kind of want to watch this and Halloween Kills like as a double feature, because there'll be stuff in this one that is like characters just leaving their house on Halloween, and that's it. And then in Halloween Kills, like they're like speaking roles, like they're in the movie, but like they weren't even in the last one, other than you see them leave the house or like stuff like that. So I think that's kind of cool, but you wouldn't even pick up on it, or like I didn't, because these things came out years apart. And I remember this was during like COVID or whatever, or after this one. The second one got delayed a lot and everything. So yeah, by the time you see it, it's like you don't remember that. But if you watch them back to back, you will notice these things. These kids they have like the Halloween 3 masks, and they're not even in the first one. All you do, they just see them leaving the house. I appreciate stuff like that. But it's alright. I guess it's kind of like setup, right? Like I think to me, out of these, I think the second and third one are better. This one's kind of just getting everything in place. Like, okay, this is what the music sounds like now. This is kind of how these like weird side characters are. And, it's a different kind of style with this guy, David Gordon Green, and who's the other guy, the comedian guy. Anyway, he helped write this, the Eastbound and Down guy, Danny something. Anyway, it's like, oh, he's helping to write it. Oh, that's interesting. So it's got a different kind of flavor, and this is more of like a setup, and so it's not really too much to write home about. But I do think it's good. More like middle of the road kind of thing. So I'm gonna give it a matinee. I am gonna put it in front of these ones. I think it's a little better than H2O. It's just a little more serious. It's a newer movie, so it's kind of comes off a little better. It's a little more sleek, a little more well made. There's a lot to like about it. So I'm gonna put it a little bit higher. All right, Halloween Kills. Yeah, this is the one that kept getting delayed because of COVID and everything. And I remember going to see this in the theater, and yeah, I think they delayed it like a whole year. But I remember I did not like this when it first came out, and now I've totally come around to it. This is like, it might be my favorite out of these, out of this most recent trilogy, just because, I don't know, I think the goofiness of the side characters and it speaks to me. It's my level of like, this is wacky, but it's like badass and fun and scary, and you can't take this too serious. Like, and if you don't take it too serious, you'll really have fun with it. I mean, they have a really cool flashback scene, and I think that's gonna give this a lot of points. It's like you're watching this flashback, and it's like dang, you're like transported back to that movie, the original 1978. But yeah, I like this actor, Hawkins. I always think of him as the Indrid Cold, like from the Mothman Prophecies. I always remember him, Indrid Cold. I just like saying that. But yeah, this is one where they kind of show this flashback, and this Hawkins guy, he dropped the ball. He accidentally kills his partner. He feels this immense guilt and over like not being able to take out Michael, and he stops Loomis from doing it. That's another thing. There's a guy in here doing Loomis, and he sounds just like him. He looks just like him. And I think it wasn't any sort of computer effects or anything. So that's pretty cool. This guy, during this flashback, he's like, is Michael still out there? Is he, whatever, like, and it's like, dang, it's like just like him. That's cool. And, they start introducing this idea that, Michael just stares out the window, and they follow that up later. I gotta say that all three of these all have like really good intros. So this one's got like flaming pumpkins. It's badass. But yeah, so Tommy Doyle was the little kid in the original, and he gets played by Paul Rudd in that dumb movie. In this one, he gets played by Anthony Michael Hall, and it's cringy, but it's awesome. I think it's just like, I just love the way these characters are in this. They're just so silly, and it's not realistic at all. And like, this mob gathers, and it starts giving me the Halloween 4 vibe, and the Frankenstein vibe, and then they're like, there's another patient that gets out, and then the mob like basically is responsible for him dying because they got the wrong guy. They're just worked up into a frenzy. They chant "Evil dies tonight" like over and over and over. And I tried to keep a tally, and I kind of lost track because people are talking and they're saying "Evil dies tonight" in the background. It's like, am I counting those? How many? So I lost track, but they say it a lot. But I really don't care. I think it's funny. evil does tonight. And then they got the sheriff from the original in here, and he says his iconic, everyone's entitled to one good scare, and it's just some cool stuff in here like that. There's some stupid characters in here that just think that they can take on Michael, and like they don't even know how to use a gun or nothing, and I just love, like, in my head, I'm like, is Michael even like that tough, or do these people really just can't fight? Like he's like this mystical, invulnerable guy, or do they just really suck, and just the power scaling of that is just, he's just able to take out all these people. But yeah, there's some really dumb decisions by characters in this, but that's, it's a slasher, it's par for the course. There's a scene where he takes out all these firefighters, and it's awesome. I mean, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like, why are the firefighters attacking him? Why are they doing that? I don't know, but it doesn't matter because it's cool. Like, he takes them all out, and it looks awesome. And the, cinematography and the fire, and it's like, it's badass. But yeah, Anthony Michael Hall is just funny parts. Like, he's so intense. He's like, yeah. He sees, like, he gets the bat, and he's like looking into the distance. He's like, night, night. Night, night. It's like they give this really long pause. He says it twice. It's like, hey, they just left it in like that. That's what I mean. It's got a little charm to it. It's so weird and goofy. And then they got the dude, Michael McDonald, I think, from Mad TV. Him and his husband, Big John and Little John. And they're big highlight of this. They always say that to each other. And Big John is actually the smaller one. But, he's like, hey, Big John. He's like, yes, Little John. They kind of do this thing, and because they get scared, Michael shows up. But that's what I mean. They give you a lot of little personality to these characters. We don't have a lot of time to tell you who they are, but they get a lot of personality, and you do, like, root for them. You kind of know they're not going to make it, but you just kind of like, damn, he got Big John and Little John, and you only known them for like 10 minutes. So I think that's the one. Yeah, like I said, one of the strengths of this trilogy. You got this older couple that, God, it's like one of those scariest parts. Michael takes this lady out with like a light bulb, and then the other guy, and he's like trying different knives on him. Like, he's already gone. Like, why do you got to do that? But it's like, that's how crazy Michael is, But it's dark, man. He's like, let me try this knife, and he's, And I love, like, Hawkins, and it's kind of similar to Halloween 2, where, like, Laurie's in the hospital the whole time. Hawkins is like, you were sweet for Ben Tramer. So then we got another Ben Tramer reference. But here's where I love, and I forgot to mention with the last one, but just, in the last one, it's like a little line where they go, wasn't that like her brother or something? And somebody's like, no, that's just something somebody made up, right? So in this universe, they're not brother, sister, like, at all. And even Laurie in this, I love this aspect of it, that she's like, oh, he's after me. And it's just like, why? And like, how do you know? Like, even Tommy Doyle, who's crazy, is like, I think he's like, how do you know that? How do you know he's coming to the hospital? I mean, the only reason that Michael ended up at Laurie's house in the first one of these is because of the crazy doctor guy. Like, he orchestrated that. Michael would have never ended up at Laurie's house. You know what I mean? So, but it's kind of cool. To me, it's a little bit of a meta thing. It was like, well, no, they're not brother, sister. He only got there because of this crazy doctor. They're not brother and sister. There's nothing, But it's Laurie's personal trauma that she experienced and everything. But it's just like, yeah, but that's just something that happened to you. It's got... Anyway, I think that's a cool aspect of this trilogy. But yeah, they beat down Michael at the end of this, and then he makes his big, like, Hulk Hogan comeback and takes all these people out, where, yeah, he's very supernatural. He's clearly, like, nobody would be able to take all that punishment, you know what I mean? And then just, I love the end when there's, like, a voiceover, and he's taking out all these people, and I think it's just a really cool ending. And, yeah, I think this one's fun. If you don't take it too serious, I think it's a really good one. So I'm going to give it a full price. Boom. But I don't like it as much as Halloween 4. I think the intro to Halloween 4 is just really cool. And the ending to Halloween 4. There's a lot of stuff that I think is a little bit better. But It's better than Halloween 3. Come on, Halloween 3 is a little goofy, so that one's more of a nostalgia thing. All right, I think there's 13 movies. Dang on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. One more movie. I've got our final one. And this is, one of those, this is the final one before they reboot it again, But, this one, I know that a lot of people don't like this. I like it quite a bit, actually. And this is one that hasn't really lost luster for me upon rewatch. I've watched it maybe 3 or 4 times. But it's cool. It's got the intro. It's got the blue font, like the Halloween 3 font. So that's what I like. I like that David Gordon Green and that they include things about Halloween 3. Like you see the masks and you see these things, and it's like, okay, even though that one wasn't even Michael Myers, like they still include it in these ones. This opening scene with the babysitter and this little boy is like crazy. Like I was not expecting this. I remember seeing this in the theater, and yeah, you just gotta see it for yourself because it's like, whoa. You're expecting one thing and then something else happens. Yeah, I'll just say like you think, oh, like Michael Myers is gonna be there or something like that. But yeah, this is still going into that whole like mob mentality thing. But then they're kind of this accident happens, and then this kid Corey, he starts getting the town hating on him and everything. But yeah, this one's cool. It's like you get into it, and Laurie's like kind of gone through a little bit of a change. Like she's trying to she's like, oh, her granddaughter, from the past few movies. She's like, oh, you should get a costume, and she's like excited about Halloween, and it's like, what? She's making a pie and everything like that, and so it's like, okay, maybe she's going to therapy and she's dealing with this now. But yeah, this was really cool. Like side characters in here. Like I like Corey's boss that dates his mom. He's just a cool guy, and he's like one of those characters, like like Danny Trejo, where you're like, dang it, like why did they have to, you wish they could survive, because they just seem cool. Like he gives them a motorcycle, and it's like, man, right before this guy dies, he's just chilling, like watching Jean-Claude Van Damme with his little headphones on, and you're like, man, this dude's cool. And that's why I like the casting of these little small roles too. It's like this guy looks like just a guy, that would be in like a small town. And yeah, I like this trilogy for that. These Haddonfield feels like a real town with these kooky characters. Yeah, but Corey, he ends up becoming a killer and everything like that. And so like I don't know if Michael passes on his evil to him or was it already there, this kind of thing. And there's this reoccurring thing where Corey can never get his chocolate milk. He pours it in the beginning, doesn't get to have it. Later on, there's these bullies, and it's like, I think if he just got his chocolate milk, none of this bad stuff would have happened. But yeah, you got this insight into like the town, what they think about Laurie. The lady that gets the light bulb in the throat from the last one, she's still alive, but she can't talk anymore. She's there with her sister, and they're like blaming Laurie for it. They're like, you provoked that. You provoked him. It's like they're saying it's her fault. But yeah, and they're like, this terrible accident, and then like just the way people are with their kind of performative thing of like hating on Corey. Well, yeah, the dad of the kid that dies at the beginning or whatever, and then he's like, they took my pain and they made it about them. And yeah, it's like that thing that people do, like there's tragedy and they want everybody to know that they're also upset, and then let's be shitty towards this guy, because he's like the scapegoat. But yeah, you see like Laurie start to get spooked by Corey. She starts to see the same evil in his eyes, it's like, and that's the big theme of this is like, are you born with it or do you become evil? Was it already there? There's a little bit, this is kind of like a little romance movie, you know what I mean? The granddaughter and Corey. I mean, I like it. I like that stuff. And I think they really kind of try to do something different here. And I always give a lot of points for that. I like the music is great in all three of these. But yeah, I like the music. They brought back John Carpenter. I think him and his son did this together, maybe with a third guy. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, some crazy like kills and stuff like that. There's like this DJ guy, and then there's the the way that he dies, it's like there's like a painting behind him, and it lines up, and there's a lot of creativity and things that are set up and then paid off. And I don't know, I think there's like a lot more to this than maybe people realize. I think if you don't like what's going on with the story, then you might have your eyes closed to like some of the cooler aspects of this. Just I think you gotta go with it. You gotta just like, yeah, maybe you would have wrote a different movie, but they wrote this one, so just take it for what it is. I think it's funny too, like Michael's doing the thing like the Frankenstein with the blind guy thing, or the end of Halloween 4 going into 5 thing, where like he's chilling in like a sewer somewhere. I guess he's chilling with this like homeless guy or whatever. But kind of gives me the Frankenstein vibe again. But it's like, man, if the cops cared about like homeless people, or like if they, they would have found Michael. It's like, but this dude just living in the sewer somewhere. They're just chilling together. But yeah, it feels like, okay, it's this Corey storyline and the love story, and then it just feels like, okay, all of a sudden now let's stick Michael back in, and so it is a little like tacked on. And the way this was marketed, you could see this poster right here. It's like it's all about them two. So I could see going into this being disappointed, because it's like, well, who the heck is this Corey guy? But I like the character. I like that stuff. So I just think, but yeah, it's just like when they have their final confrontation, it's like, what? Like, okay. and it's just like they basically have like a big Frankenstein mob killing of this guy, or maybe he's already dead. I don't know, but I think somebody's like, "Whoa, we don't do this. This is not how we do this," and like, it is tonight. And it's like, okay, this is just like somebody's getting in trouble for this down the line. This is like an extrajudicial killing, or what they put him in the meat grinder, or the crusher thing at the end, and it's just like, okay. But that's what I'm saying. I don't really love that part. Like it feels like tacked on, and it's like, okay, really. But I do like it's a happy ending. Hawkins, the Indrid Cold guy, him and Laurie, they kind of been flirting a little bit here and there, and then he finally, at the end, he brings her vegetables, and you're going like, shit, like this might be a happy ending, and it is a happy ending, and it'll be the end for at least a little while. I mean, I feel like everything gets rebooted, even if it's like I think someday, it sounds weird, but like someday they will remake like The Godfather and original Star Wars trilogy, and like these things that we think they won't remake them, but they will, because you got to think, if hundreds of years go by, not everybody's going to want to watch an old movie, so as much as it feels like this is the last one, we all know it's not the last one. But that being said, yeah, I do like this a lot more than I think most people. But yeah, so I'm going to give it a full price. Good, not great, but pretty damn good. But I have more fun with Halloween Kills, so we'll put it right here in front of Halloween 3. And yeah, this was quite a task trying to watch all these. Mainly, honestly, the lull, I would say, was Halloween 5, 6, and then the Rob Zombie ones. Those are tough to get through, I will say. I mean, maybe if you're into the Rob Zombie thing, you like that and everything like that. But, for me, So yeah, that's my list. My number 1 is the original Halloween. Hate to be cliche, but it is kind of the best one. It's got the best vibes. I've watched this countless times. Usually watch it every year, Halloween. But the biggest things I think of, like, just noticing that I really like Halloween Kills, that one's really came up higher on my list, this most recent time. I just have fun with it. I laugh at that movie, like throughout the whole thing. So definitely recommend that. Even if you've seen it, you think you didn't like it, maybe check it out again and just have some fun with it. But yeah, that's it for today. I hope everybody had a fun Halloween, and I guess I'm going to start watching some movies, and so I can get on here and talk about them some more. And if you made it this far, I want to thank you very much for listening, and have a good day and a good night and all that good stuff. And that's it.